We're going to move now to our statewide sector-based committees, and I'm going to introduce Sharon Sandow, who's going to coordinate, Deputy Director for ECA, and coordinates with all the different committees. So Sharon, and then you can introduce each person who's speaking.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Our first committee is the ECA Accessibility Committee, and I will turn it over to Sue Fisher, who is the chair of the committee.
Thank you and good morning. So I think the real value of this committee is that I believe that there's a little bit of something for everyone, regardless of what specific area or committee that you're on. And so our hope is that an awful lot of these resources are ones that you integrate into all of the plans that you have for your programs. So I'll just briefly go over what's on the website. So if you go to the general website, the earthquakecountry.org/accessibility, you'll see that there's actually a great guide for people with disabilities, and the AFN, for those of you not familiar with that terminology, is access and functional needs. I like to spell that out because oftentimes we use that commonly, AFN, so I want to make sure that everyone understands that's sort of the terminology that often many of us use. So anyway, it's a great 8-page document. It's a little bit long, but it's really great details on how people can prepare for earthquakes and tsunamis, and it's just a really great reference for you, and I highly recommend that you use that in your training or just in generally your presentations. And we're very excited that we have actually our key earthquake tips, recommended earthquake actions, and earthquake protective actions graphics, all now in 15 languages. And again, these have that flavor of accessibility, so it's very clear that if you have some sort of disability or access and functional needs, that means that there's going to be something mentioned in these areas in 15 different languages. So anyway, we're very excited about the fact that we have a much more of a global view of some really terrific earthquake tips, as well as the graphics that go along with them. We did a webinar last fall. Gosh, I guess it was fall. When you're retired, time doesn't have any meaning anymore. But anyway, it was a great conversation about how to adapt our messaging and reach the whole community. And I think that it was really valuable and just opening up those dialogues for what kind of language do we use when we talk about being able to, reach a certain part of the community. According to Vance Taylor, of course we can. We just have to do it. So it's a great webinar. There's a link in the accessibility page where you can view that. Highly recommend that you do that. Just as a note, our Abilities Expo, we don't host it, but we are a participant in it. And I guess we had one virtual, well, we had a couple of virtuals during COVID, but the next one is planned for March in 2023 at the LA Convention Center. It's really a great opportunity to really look at how people really address an awful lot of mobility issues. And then I think just as importantly, having the Earthquake Country Alliance have a presence there continues our message that we are inclusive in our messaging, and we want to make sure that everything that has to do with preparedness for earthquakes and tsunamis include the entire community. So I hope that if any of you have any questions, you reach out to me and I would be more than happy to help. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. I'd like to now introduce Ines Pierce.
Thanks, Sharon. So I am chair of the business committee, and we really over the years have focused on all businesses, but have been working on a concerted effort to focus on small businesses, since they are actually a lot more vulnerable because they have less resources and fewer people who are working on these issues. So some of the things that we've been doing in the business committee is we've had the Secure Your Space trainings that have been presented by Safety Proof and Ready America. And that's something that if you haven't had a chance to look at those, they're really great webinars and give you a lot of how-tos and practical information on how to do these non-structural retrofit information. And it's great for small businesses because that's one area that's not very costly for them, and they could take advantage of that to make their businesses a lot safer. And it's also encouraging the mitigation use of the mini awards, which is a great opportunity if you're not familiar with that as well. We have through the years been developing a lot of different ShakeOut resources, just trying to keep things new since we've been around for more than 10 years and coming up with different ways to take the information to grab people who we've had from day one, and also for people who are new to this on the private sector side. We've been promoting different resources such as the Haywire Toolkit, which was mentioned earlier, and then looking at how we could expand to different size businesses. And the partners that we have working on the business committee represent not only business, we have nonprofits and others who have an interest in working with the business community. So if this is something of interest for you, we would love to have you join our committee, because we're a very innovative group and always looking for new ideas and new eyes to really refresh what we're working on. Our biggest thing is really trying to figure out over the years on how to engage with the chambers of commerce. If any of you work with chambers or with the chamber, that's something else that we could definitely use some insight on. We have had limited success there, but it's something that we want to do more of because they have a direct line, especially since COVID, directly into those small businesses. And again, we have been partnering with Cal OES on the Resilient Workplace workshops and other resources, reaching out to small businesses with the Disaster Resistant Business Toolkit and the resources there. So we're constantly trying to add more resources to get people to take, find out what works best for them and take some action. So that's a little bit about us.
Fantastic. Thanks, Inez. Now presenting the Nonprofit and Faith-Based Committee is Glenn Granholm.
Hello, everyone. I'm here to talk about the Nonprofit Committee for ECA, and I can tell you right up front, this is the most fun committee to join. So they're all great, but really, why talk about anybody else? Join the Nonprofit Committee, and I don't even work for a nonprofit. This is real near and dear to my heart. We have a wonderful webinar posted online that's free to access about how to access federal funding that's administered through Cal OES for your nonprofit. We currently don't have a chairperson, and probably not a good idea to appoint somebody from a for-profit company as the chair for the nonprofit. But Sharon has threatened that I would be appointed. So please, I will beg and I will buy coffee. So join us, contact Sharon if you're interested. Have a blast with us. This is all great work for just a wonderful group of people doing incredible things around our state. So come join the Nonprofit Committee.
Thank you, Glenn. That was a ringing endorsement for joining the committees. And if you are interested in joining a committee, I've put my contact information in the chat. The next committee we have is the ECA Epicenter Committee, which is Earthquake Education and Public Information Centers. Those are free choice learning environments, like museums, libraries, park visitor centers, and so forth. We have a lot of resources on the Epicenter webpage, which you see at the bottom. Some of the resources include past webinars we've done about how to do ShakeOut in a museum, in a library, how to account for your visitors as well as your staff and volunteers. We have a great ShakeOut Earthquake Toolkit for free choice learning environments, which can give you some ideas and suggestions. We also have some other interesting resources that can provide tools if you work in a free choice learning environment, you want to know how to talk about earthquakes. Some of those tools are the Turtle Story and place-based immersive experiences, including the Hayward Fault Walk, which is in the Bay Area, of course, and the Wallace Creek Interpretive Trail and Guide. So I really encourage you to go to the webpage, check out the resources, and reach out to me if you're interested in joining the committee. And the ECA Public Sector Committee, I will turn it over to Chris Santa-Gonzalez, the chair.
Good morning, everybody. I hope everybody is doing well. I'm Crisanta Gonzalez. I am the Division Chief here at the City of Los Angeles Emergency Management Department. I'm currently the Division Chief over the Community Preparedness and Engagement Division, and I'm currently the Chair over the ECA Public Sector Committee. I wanted to talk a little bit about our committee and about why Graham is mistaken that he doesn't have the best committee, but we won't go into a lot of details on that one. Nice try, Graham. So as you can see, we are very engaged in trying to think outside the box and how the public sector can think outside the box and engage communities and find out how we can better educate and better learn ourselves, because many times in public sector, what we do is we get stuck in the same routine, in the same, as we call it, battle rhythm. And it's hard for us to see things because we are so busy with our day-to-day, whether it's an activation or, you know, an ongoing pandemic or pop-up wildfires or preparing for this large-scale earthquake in Southern California. Sometimes we get caught in that battle rhythm of government work. So we always try and bring in and invite people to webinars that can help us think outside the box and can open to our minds to how we can better, how the public sector can better engage communities, ideas that are working. So we really want to showcase those things. So if you have any ideas whatsoever on, hey, this is a really cool concept, it's working in this community, it doesn't matter if it's Northern California, Central California, or Southern California, please reach out to either myself or Sharon. And Sharon, if you want to put my email in the chat box, I'm fine with that as well. And that way we can try and get, you know, it on our calendar of webinars. As you can see on the slide presented here, we've had some really great topics and and you can click on those and watch them. The Inyo County Teen CERT program, the Topanga Coalition, you can see how engaging youth at a younger age helps the word spread to, you know, adults. We have to work, we have to pay the bills, we have our 9-to-5. But our youth and our teens are the ones that connect those messages. So Teen CERT, they had a great, you know, those two had great programs. I talked about our program. City of Los Angeles has the Ready Your LA Neighborhood program. We want to do a community grassroots approach to preparedness, kind of meeting you where you're at. Humboldt County, we had some great groups here. City of San Francisco, Martinez area CERT. It's already, I really encourage you to click on there. And I'm also encouraging you to reach out to me if you are a public sector that wants to join our committee. If you say, wow, you know what, I have some ideas, but I'm not really sure if, you know, if they make sense for a public entity, we can actually connect you with other, you know, we can increase your network if you're a smaller public sector. And then we'd also like to increase our network if you're a medium to large sector or even a small one. We've learned a lot from every level of participant. We want to just, you know, keep this going, make sure that we have these statewide community engagement programs and webinars and other activities and resources that you can implement in your community and we can implement in ours. And with that, I just wanted to say that we'd like to welcome our new member from the City of Murrieta, Rachel Hollinger. So we're happy to have you, Rachel, and can't wait to meet you at the next Public Sector Committee. And please feel free to reach out to me via email if you have any questions. Thank you very much, Sharon. I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you so much. And I want to also mention that we welcome local, state, federal, and tribal members as well. So we are trying to grow all of our committees. And again, you should reach out to me. My email is in the chat. On behalf of the ECA Healthcare Committee, I just want to share that we do have a great number of webinars that we've done involving the healthcare sector. In fact, we have one coming up on August 31st on ShakeOut in healthcare settings. And that still can be registered for. You can see the link right there. And previously we had a webinar last week about accessibility guidance in healthcare settings, which was very interesting. We also have a number of resources to plan your drill in a healthcare setting. And that also is a committee that we are growing. So please join us. We also have a pre-K through 12 education committee, and we've got ShakeOut drills with PowerPoints for ShakeOut drills, online or in person. We've put those together in the last couple of years, and it's broken down by different grades, as you can see, which is really fantastic and very helpful. And at shakeout.org/schools, you can find drill planning resources, general preparedness and mitigation guidance, and also other activities, including preparedness and safety resources. The Higher Education Committee, I'm going to turn it over to Steve Goldfarb, the chair.
All right, thanks, Sharon. Steve Goldfarb, and the chair and also Director of Emergency Management at the University of Southern California. And in our committee, we reach out to colleges, universities, trade techs, and other higher education institutions with the goal of educating all their emergency managers, administrators, students, and parents about earthquake preparedness. We have annual activities such as we have a disaster resilient university listserv that reaches literally every university, not only in the United States, but around the world, where we send out information about participation in the ShakeOut. We also do podcasts with Todd DeVoe. Those of you in emergency management may know of Todd DeVoe, and ShakeOut webinars to engage higher education professionals. And because, if you think about us, we have, every 4 years, our audience changes, or every year it changes, but people go through a cycle here for 4 years. So we really have the opportunity to penetrate that age group between 18 and 22 about earthquake preparedness, and they take that back to their families. And it's just a good committee to join, especially if you're interested in higher education, or you're part of a higher education, or even if you work in the community and you work directly with the colleges or universities within your community, it would be helpful to be a part of this because of the customization we do to some of the things for ShakeOut that work really well within the college and university setting. And as she has here on the slide, there are a lot of resources on the ShakeOut website under the college university resources, things from like specialties for like laboratories and other venues that you might have within a campus. And that's it, Sharon.
Thank you so much. We have a question. Is the schools committee connected to the Big Five safety program of San Mateo County? And I think the answer to that is not yet, but certainly we would like to be. So I will follow up with you, Sasha. Are there any other questions about the committees? I think you get the idea that they're really interesting and a great opportunity to network. So please feel free to email me. My email is in the chat, and hope to see you all joining committees soon.
Excellent. Thank you, Sharon, and all of our committee chairs for your presentations. Next up, we're going to welcome Dr. Susan Huff from the U.S. Geological Survey, and who is going to give us our Quake Break. Normally, we are doing these at the regional level, but as we're doing a statewide meeting, her presentation will cover the entire state. And Sue, you're up.
Great, hello. It's great to join you. I see some familiar names in the participant list. So it's my job to talk to you about the earthquakes that have happened since the group last met. I'm reporting live from Western Wisconsin, and I'll apologize in advance if my dog barks in the background. So next slide. So fortunately, no significant earthquakes happened in the last 2 days between when I put this talk together and now. So a quick overview of what has happened since late May. This is sort of a generic map. There were 243 earthquakes bigger than 2.5, which are potentially felt in California and Nevada. Nothing too remarkable. Next slide. Next slide, please. Okay, so there were 7 magnitude 4s. Which is, I'll show you, is a pretty standard number. I'm not going to go through all of them, but I just wanted to highlight a couple that make a couple of interesting points. Next slide. So these 3, there was an event in June of 4.1. If you felt any earthquake, it was probably that one. Next slide. It was up in the Bay Area, and that's my dog. And it had the most did you feel it reports, I believe, of any earthquake in this time period. But moving along, I wanted to say a bit more about two other events, magnitude 4-ish events, and they were the ones down in the Ridgecrest area, 4.3, 4.6. So next slide. So I think we all remember the Ridgecrest earthquake, and many of us felt it, 7.1, 3 years ago already. Next slide. So looking at the aftershock sequence, it's been quite energetic. There have been 7,000-ish magnitude greater than 2 aftershocks. And this is over the full sequence. Next slide. And I am going over these quickly. If you look since May 23rd, you see that the aftershock sequence is still very well delineated. This is earthquakes greater than magnitude, aftershocks greater than magnitude 2 now. So they're mostly smaller, but you can still very much see the aftershock zone lit up. So I wanted to talk a bit about the continuing aftershock series. Next slide. So if you go to the products page for the magnitude 7.1, one of the links that you'll find towards the bottom here is the operational aftershock forecast. And Ridgecrest actually was a game changer. These forecasts used to disappear 1 year after the last update, but Ridgecrest is was large enough, the aftershock sequence is still active enough that the group has kept that page going. Next page, next slide. So this, you probably can't see this, but if you click on that operational aftershock forecast link, if you haven't seen it, you'll eventually get down to some numbers, and the next slide pulls them out. So you can see where the aftershock sequence stands as of a year starting last July. More magnitude 3 aftershocks are virtually certain. Magnitude 4 aftershocks in the next year are more likely than not. And even a magnitude 5 wouldn't be that unusual. It's a 12% chance. So put another way, out of 8 California sequences similar to this one, 1 out of 8 of them would produce about a magnitude 5 or greater aftershock over the next year at this point. So the aftershock sequence is definitely alive and kicking, and people in the Ridgecrest area will attest to that. Next slide. So the distribution of magnitudes of aftershocks follows a well-known distribution. If you plot the number versus the magnitude, you see this straight line typically, and that's it fits very nicely with the aftershocks that we've seen. Now, this is just the last 3 months. So we're still seeing that distribution. The rate is down, but you still have a potential small number of bigger events. And by convention, the sequence will continue until the rate falls back to what the background was before the main shock. And that's going to be at least a few more years. Next slide. Oh, and so this, if you look at all aftershocks, you get the blue symbols and lines. So you see the same slope of that line, but the much higher number. This is counting all of the aftershocks. Okay, next slide. So looking at all recorded earthquakes since late May, there were actually almost 11,000 in California and Nevada. So a whole lot of mostly little earthquakes. Next slide. And this is from the USGS COMCAT page. You can see the association between these earthquakes and mapped faults for the most part. In fact, there's so many earthquakes, it's hard to see the faults underneath. But if you go to the next slide, this includes only the great magnitude greater than 2 events, which are for the most part lining up with faults that we've mapped. And I believe the next one is the last slide. So there's also, you can toggle, add in the layer with the USGS hazard map compared to recent earthquakes. And this is interesting to consider. If you look closely at this figure, you can see that there are some zones of high hazard that don't have a lot of earthquakes. And famously, the 1857 stretch of the San Andreas has fairly low seismicity. And there's some other zones like that. So if you have a major locked fault, you may not see it light up with little earthquakes. But for the most part, the earthquakes are happening in the zones where we know that earthquake rates are highest. I should also say that a hazard map doesn't predict where earthquakes will happen. You can't, if you get an earthquake in an unlikely place, it doesn't disprove the hazard map. But looking back over decades, there's been sort of a joke, I think, that earthquakes happen on unknown faults in California, and we learn about faults because earthquakes happen. But at this point in time, maps like this, I think, are very encouraging that all the decades of studies really have illuminated the major faults, the rates that they slip at, the hazard that they generated. And so you're seeing this encouraging correspondence between where the earthquakes are happening and the hazard map. And with that, thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Sue. And do we have any questions about Sue's presentation?
I don't see any in the chat, but if anybody has any questions, please place them there and we'll be happy to get them answered for you.
Okay. So next is me. So let me turn my camera back on. And a couple other things here. So thank you everybody for continuing with us. So I will be talking about ECA statewide overview and key resources and activities, including ShakeOut. And if you could hold on 1 second, I'll stop the. Sorry, everybody. I'm having some work done outside, and I told them they would need to stop at some point because they were banging on the wall. Earthquake Country Alliance, just an overview. We have over 4,000 private, and grassroots leaders now. You've heard from our statewide committees and our regional alliances today about all the work that they coordinate. And we really do encourage you to join not only ECA as a whole, but then participate within these groups. So the way to join ECA, if you're not already, is at earthquakecountry.org/join. It's free. It's a simple form. You'll get on our email list so we know how to let you know about our events and new resources, activities. And you can, when you join, you can indicate which region you're interested in getting updates from. Our funding does come through the California Office of Emergency Services. They're providing FEMA NEHRP funding, what I'll describe in a moment. And that supports those of us at USC and the Southern California Earthquake Center to administer ECA. The NEHRP program I mentioned, National Earthquake Hazards Reduction Program, has been around for about 45 years. And FEMA's support within that supports states with higher earthquake risk. And our support from the state is for ECA's earthquake education, outreach, and mitigation activities. And we also get additional support for ECA through the Southern California Earthquakes funding from NSF and USGS. That all supports statewide activities, earthquakecountry.org website, as well as the terremotos.org website in Spanish, which really kind of goes beyond California in our reach. Similarly, the tsunamizone.org website, which for California supports Tsunami Preparedness Week in March, as dated here for 2022. It's usually the last week of March, so that's how it will be for 2023. But that website also has grown to be kind of like the model of it was ShakeOut, but for tsunamis. And so we have most coastal US states as well as the Caribbean countries participating. And of course, we created back in 2008 the first ShakeOut, and that with ShakeOut grew statewide. as an organization, and shakeout.org/California is where you want to go to register if you haven't already. And we have more than 7.7 million participants, climbing quickly. That's more than last year already, and much more than 2020, of course, down because of COVID, but we're trying to reach and exceed our all-time record of 10.8 million, which was in 2019. And we do have it where you've registered for today's workshop and many others, earthquakecountry.org/calendars, where to find out about all those that are coming up, as well as past events, which we do record everything so that you'll be able to go back and look at our past workshops. This is the committee list that we went through this morning. Again, earthquakecountry.org/committees is where you can see that full list and get information about how to participate. We heard a little bit about the Events Bureau. Again, if you have anywhere in the state you would like a presenter or an information table or a booth for a conference, go to earthquakecountry.org/events. And also, you can fill out a form that will give you the information, give us the information to support and find a speaker or a group of people to come out and be at your event. We have 2 other bureaus as well that help. Participation Bureau is about recruitment for ShakeOut and Tsunami Week, and as well as the Media Bureau for state and local federal coordination too with media on all our activities in year round. Our main messaging is the 7 steps to earthquake safety, and we do want you to make sure to know that you can refer people to this website. You can add these links to your website. It's really a one-stop place for people to come in and find what to do before, during, and after earthquakes. All our guidance goes into these pages. A lot of new materials are being added here all the time. And as an example for secure your space, which is step 1, that is securing your furniture. Whoops, moving fast. Your bookshelves, your microwaves, your monitors, your refrigerators, your kitchen cabinets, and all sorts of other things. These are the types of materials we provide through the mini awards program, FYI. And also really to highlight that we have created and updated now 13 documents now, and actually in 16 languages that we now have both Chinese traditional and Chinese simplified written script in addition to all the other languages. And so you can go to earthquakecountry.org/languages to access everything. We also now have pages such as earthquakecountry.org/Armenian or /Chinese, Japanese, etc. So it's one page that you can refer people to for information in just that language. So definitely go and check that out. And all of these are available as PDFs to download. They all have the appropriate accessibility aspects built in, and including being able to be read by screen readers with people with low visibility and low visual ability. We do have these cards that can be printed like a postcard, but also as large as a poster for what to do during earthquakes, not only to drop, cover, hold on, but to lock, cover, hold on if you're in a wheelchair or walker. And why do we talk about drop, cover, hold on? You know, this is the strong consensus from experts, and there's been papers written about this and research that this is the appropriate action to reduce injuries from earthquakes. And even our urban search and rescue firefighters who have rescued people from collapsed buildings in the US and internationally encourage that what the safest place to be safe in an earthquake is one where you've put yourself under cover and you are not running outside, you're not in a doorway. None of these old things that should never have been advised are recommended. This prevents you from being thrown to the ground, and also just reduces the injury. The number one source of injury are falling objects or things that are flying across the space, TVs and ceiling tiles and all these things. So, and just to kind of give a very quick but thorough overview, you want to drop onto your hands and knees where you are. Then you cover your head and neck with one arm and hand to immediately protect yourself from things that might be falling. If there is a sturdy table or desk nearby, crawl underneath it for additional shelter. If not, you can crawl next to a wall or perhaps next to something else that's not going to fall over, that's going to prevent you from things from coming at you. And then hold on does not mean wait a minute. It means hold on to what you're next to, because as things are moving around the space, you don't want to be kind of your eyes closed and your hands over your head and then realize that you're no longer being sheltered. So you want to hold on with one arm to that space if you're underneath something. And importantly, of course, you want to adapt to your situation, as already mentioned. If you can't get back up again, don't drop down in the first place. You can stay seated, cover your head and neck. If you use a cane, bring it with you to help get back up. Use a walker or a wheelchair that has wheels. You want to lock them or turn off the wheelchair so it won't move, and then bend over, cover your head and neck. Again, a lot of consensus on these approaches here on earthquake safety. We have a lot more information at the earthquakecountry.org/step5 page for what to do in many different situations, including if you're driving, and including videos and animations for all of these, including the graphics as individual rows, in addition to the overall graphic here. So, and all the different languages. So if you're looking to include this graphic in your message, it's all there, linked from earthquakecountry.org/step5. All right, coming along, of course, when should you protect yourself? When you feel earthquake shaking, immediately drop down. Don't kind of look around, don't ask others, is this an earthquake? Maybe there's times where it won't have been an earthquake, and you'll just have practiced what to do in case it was. But this first jolt is generally not the strongest shaking, so you want to get down first, and then protect yourself, get under something if possible. And now, of course, if you get an earthquake warning, as we'll be hearing about coming up next, you want to immediately also drop, cover, hold on. You don't want to wait to find out if this is for real. This is the few seconds of warning that will allow you to be in that space before any shaking arrives, perhaps. And of course, you can practice this as part of ShakeOut in October or any day of the year that you want to have your earthquake drills. So if someone was asking a question, you could put it in the chat for right now, and then we'll come back to that. Of course, ShakeOut each Thursday of October, but you can have your drill on any day of the year and at any time on ShakeOut Day, not just 10:20 a.m. on 10:20. I'm gonna mute. Okay, I think that's what it was. We do encourage, of course, that you go to shakeout.org, whether you are in California or any U.S. state or territory or their countries, you can register and participate at shakeout.org. Okay. As mentioned earlier, we do have guidance and materials for how to do drills remotely. If you're still having, maybe your organization has become a hybrid organization, you can use these materials that we have for video conferencing, but you can do earthquake drills via video conferencing is the key thing. And during classes or staff meetings or still in person. And the resources we have that not only facilitate those virtual drills, moving too quickly, but can be used for in-person drills as well. So we have presentations set up for different categories for school, but also any organization can use. We do have this in Spanish as well. We're working on adding additional categories. Now, moving on from ShakeOut, also this fall, we'll be opening up registration for the 2023 awards. So you'll apply this fall in 2022. You'll receive your materials if you're selected in early 23. Fortunately, this year, we're going to have a longer time period for you to complete your awards, not just 3 or 4 months, but perhaps as much as 6 or 7. We're working that out. So be thinking about what you might apply for. You can go to earthquakecountry.org/mini awards. You can learn about kind of the type of activities and resources and materials that you can apply to receive. We do not give you money. We give you the items. We pay for them, and they get sent to you, and then you just need to install them or use the educational materials as a program. And so we're hoping early October that program will be available for applying. And you do need to be an ECA member to apply, so be sure to join us before that. Okay, do we have any questions about my presentation, about ShakeOut, anything about ShakeOut or the mini awards or ECA in general?
We have a question from Janine. Is there a training on what to do if you're driving during a large earthquake?
Yes, and this is one of the videos we have in our earthquake safety video series. But basically, when you're driving, you want to slowly kind of pull over to the side of the road. You want to be mindful of what other drivers are doing. You may have noticed the earthquake before they do. You may not feel it, but you might see people on the street or around you like reacting to the shaking. And so you want to kind of be mindful of what that why they're doing that. And basically, because your car has suspension, you might not feel the actual shaking as you're driving, but once you do, pull over, set your brake, and make sure you're not under something that's going to fall on you, like a potentially like a bridge or overpass. Just drive another second out from underneath it if you can, or just try not to go underneath it. Again, at earthquakecountry.org/step 5 are all of the different ways to protect yourself in different situations.
Tracy,
And that includes, where you are, and being mindful if you're near the coast to that the earthquake may have been under the water, and meaning that it might have generated a tsunami. And so after you protect yourself from the shaking, as soon as you're able to move, you want to move quickly to high ground or to inland as far as you can.
great. Tracy asks, does ECA have a webinar or info on natural gas seismic shutoff valves?
We don't have a specific training there. We have, we encourage the use of automatic shutoff valves, and some cities require that, maybe on sale of the home or at other periods. So the key thing about gas shutoff valves, you would either have your own wrench to turn it off if you hear or smell or can see that there's a gas leak. Otherwise, don't turn it off automatically. The gas company is going to want to be the one to turn that back on in case there are any broken gas pipes, and be able to respond immediately to that in your home. So you either have the automatic shutoff valve, or you have one that you use to turn it off, but be mindful of when to do that. There's a lot of instructions available online for all about that. Any other questions?
After dropping and holding during the shaking, if near the coast, would you recommend moving inland?
Yes. I covered that earlier.
Great.
And again, we have videos for what to do for people who use mobility devices. Longer video that shows, I believe, 6 or 7 different types of devices. So again, go to earthquakecountry.org/step 5 for all of that. And all right, so
thank you.
All right, let's move on then to our final presenters. Then we have some discussion after that. So I'd like to introduce Margaret Vinci and Jeff Braverman. They're going to talk about earthquake early warning. We're going to start with Margaret, and go ahead.
Thank you, Mark. So Jeffrey and from Cal OES, and I wanted to share with you updates on the status and expansion efforts of earthquake early warning across the state. So I think we all know that earthquake early warning is the ability to provide a few seconds of warning to the affected areas before damaging waves arrive. Earthquake early warning is powered by ShakeAlert and is a collaborative effort between USGS, Cal OES, its university partners, geological survey partners in California, Oregon, and Washington. But the alert system is only one part of earthquake early warning. The newest update to our earthquake early warning is our new collaborative strategic plan with Cal OES and USGS that focuses on communication, education, outreach, and engagement of technical partners. Earthquake early warning is only successful if people are aware of how they can engage with it and that they utilize it to prevent and reduce damage and injury. Next slide. So when we talk about a technical partner, this may be a new term to you, and this is something that I wanted to introduce. So when we talk about a technical partner, so in the earthquake early warning system, the delivery and the issuing of the alerts by USGS is only one part of the system. The other part of the system is who is going to distribute those alerts to you. And that is our technical partner, who then actually takes the alert that is processed and issued and then delivers that alert. And that might be through different processes and different mechanisms. Next slide. So what would you do? So think about it. What would you do with seconds to 10 seconds of warning? First of all, like Mark said, if you get an alert or you feel shaking, you're going to immediately drop, cover, and hold on. If you cannot drop, cover, and hold on, you're going to take protective actions. And Mark explains some of those that you can do. Next slide. So we already have a successful public alerting system on various apps such as MyShake. And if notifications is turned on your phone, you will also get the WIA alerts, or with an Android, you will get the Google. Google will send you the alerts automatically. For a magnitude 4.5 earthquake or an intensity 3, where you are, and how many have you already downloaded MyShake? If you have not, go to the App Store now and download your MyShake app so that you have that during any time that we're going to have an earthquake. Next slide. So we've had the focus on public alert. That is successful. People have the apps. But the other focus that we want to, and this is our new update, is focusing on building a new industry for automated actions, not just delivery of alerts on phones, but where the savings and the successes is going to be is most likely going to be through our automated operations. So we are building an earthquake early warning industry. It is not just those automated actions on the cell phones. Next slide. So some of those, so what else can you do with seconds of warning? Those automated operations where that signal that is issued, that alert is issued, it automatically goes and triggers to open up doors, close water valves so that we don't lose water. That's very important now with the drought, that we don't want to lose any of that water that's saved in our reservoirs and in our tanks or underground. We want to be able to preserve that and not lose that water, being able to slow down trains so they don't derail. Open fire station doors so that the trucks aren't stuck behind those. Being able to then alert hospital personnel, turn on generators, use signage in operating rooms, use signage for people that have hearing problems or with access and functional needs. Being able to turn off equipment to avoid damage and lose loss of your data. There are many uses for automated operations, and this is where our savings is going to be with Shake Alert. So next slide. So many of the successes we've already seen have been in our hospitals. These are implementations of earthquake early warning into our hospitals, our schools, our light rail and buses, our libraries, and many other industries throughout California and Washington and Oregon. Slide 8. So earthquake early warning system, again, issuing alerts is communication, education, outreach, and engagement with technical partners who build the alert system and the mechanisms, and we want to be able to share this information. So our priorities with education is, first of all, public safety, preparedness and resilience, technical implementation and engagement. So getting people to build the delivery system, but also people to use earthquake early warning, to go to your organization, talk about implementing it into your organization, using it personally, having consistent messages of communication for everybody that's sharing this information, that we are sending out consistent information and not confusing people, integration with our federal, state, and earthquake hazard products, and educational resource and development and dissemination. So this is the focus of our 21-26 plan that we move forward to expand and diversify ShakeAlert technical engagement and implementation, getting more people to utilize it, and also to have a long-term plan and implementation to build and sustain a robust infrastructure to our ShakeAlert system. And again, that's not just the alert system, but also to our communication, education, and outreach. Next slide. So this represents the structure of our communication, education, and outreach. And this includes Cal OES and many of our other partners. So we have a section on geological surveys that provide the information, and we work with emergency management. We work with social science research. So all the information that we are sending is actually vetted by social science and by best practices, so that you can safely use this information within your own organizations. We also, again, like I mentioned, have the technical engagement. We want to find more technical partners that are going to build those delivery systems, as well as end users, to have everybody using earthquake early warning, not just on apps, but in more reliable mechanisms. So sending it over a PA system within a building, using handheld radios for our safety people that are out in the field, being able to alert them if they're in a dangerous situation. So there's many uses for being able to communicate with people out in the field. Next slide. So what ShakeAlert public education resources are available to you? All of these resources can be found at shakealert.org/messaging_toolkit. Next slide. And so some of these resources that we build that you can actually utilize now are key messages. What is ShakeAlert? How can people get the alerts? How can you become a technical partner? What are the ways that you can utilize it within your infrastructure? What things can be done within your organization to be able to avoid damage and reduce losses during that earthquake? What self-protection actions should you take? If you can't drop, cover, and hold on, then what other protective actions should you take? These are also available in multiple languages. We have them in 5 different languages, but you can then take these documents and use them. You can actually put your own logos on them and you can utilize them. Next slide. These are fact sheets that again tell you about the basics of ShakeAlert. How does it work? What is the science behind earthquake early warning? What is the difference between magnitude and intensity? How does the seismic network work? Who are its collaborators? How to become a technical partner, and also the cybersecurity that is behind the system to add resiliency to that system, to make it more adaptable. That it alleviates one of the roadblocks for people to then take ShakeAlert, take the early warning, and implement it into their infrastructures, into their PA systems, being able to slow down trains and do automatic operations. Next slide. So the pathway to becoming a technical partner is, first of all, we're looking for those people that are interested in building that development, taking that XML message that has the alert in it, and then building a mechanism that will then deliver it to the public. So whether it be through a PA system, being able to turn off valves, open up gates, bring elevators to the next floor to let people out, whatever that mechanism might be, to build that, and then they will then look at that. We will then provide help for them to walk through that pathway to get a license to operate from USGS. So how can you take automated actions? First of all, download your app. Think about how earthquake early warning can be utilized within your organization or building. Help us to identify technical partners and end users. It might be a neighbor, it might be a partner. You might want to build it within your own organization and become that technical partner and build it yourself. Or how will you find people that have a license to operate already? So you can come to us. We have a regional coordinator. I'm the regional coordinator for Southern California. Tal Edgecombe from UC Berkeley is the regional coordinator for Northern California. Next slide. So again, participate in ShakeOut drill on October the 20th. Add ShakeAlert to that. And we actually are coming out with a manual that will show you how to do that. So let's all work together to bring ShakeAlert to the public. The more people are connected to earthquake early warning through public alerting and automated actions, the more earthquake resilient our communities will be. Thank you. And I'm going to turn this now over to my partner, Jeffrey, who will talk about the updates through Cal OES with their communication, education, and outreach.
Margaret, before we do that, there's one question in the chat. I'll just ask, how does Shake Alert fit in with the state's MyShake alerting system?
Okay, so my Shake alerting system is powered by Shake Alert. So the California Earthquake Early Warning System is powered by Shake Alert.
And that's a good segue to Jeff.
To Jeff.
Thank you, Margaret. I'm Jeff Braverman, Cal OES, Earthquake Warning, California. I'm a researcher and I specifically focus on education and outreach. Next slide. So I will go over our 2022 goal, along with some of the things that we've accomplished so far during the year for the areas that you can see here. Next. Okay, so our goal, we want to provide earthquake early warning to all Californians, and we want to make sure that it's accessible by them and they know what to do when they get a signal. Currently, we are working on finishing the system build out for Earthquake Warning California and all of our stations. And then we're also working with a lot of partners, state associations, industry, business, different services, UC Berkeley, many partners. For the rest of the year, our specific focus will be on industry implementation. We will be doing public outreach, but our focus is going to shift a little at the end of this year and into next. Next slide. So our goal is to have 1,115 stations by October 2022. By our last advisory board meeting, I can tell you that 871 stations had been completed in June, when we were at June. And that means that we had, from that point, about 244 stations to go. Next slide. As Margaret talked about a little bit, the MyShake app you can have, and please download if you haven't. One of the new features this year is the addition of the home base. And what you can do is you can set your own home base. You can set your own area so that you will be notified when that area has an earthquake. You can either set it where you are, or you can set it in a location that you're interested in. It's really up to you. One of the questions we get a lot is, how does it affect, our privacy? And basically, nothing is stored except the area in the app. And then there are conditions when there has to be an MMI of 3 or greater for you to get warned. I will say that in this next part of the year, we will come out with additional languages for the app, so it's accessible by all Californians. We will also be providing how-to videos that walk folks through the MyShake system, so they can be informed when they download it. Next. Last April, we had an Earthquake Preparedness Month tour. It was nice. We got to go out there and have a booth that featured a earthquake simulator. We went up and down the state from San Diego up to Sacramento and back down to Salinas. We hit major markets. We had about 500 simulator riders, and we got about 10,000 downloads, which is about 4 to 5 times as what we normally get. We also got on the news, and we had a lot of exposure about Earthquake Warning California and Earthquake Early Warning. Next. So our strategy, specifically targeting industries. First, we are sending out outreach packages. And so the outreach packages will have a toolkit. It'll have a letter from us inviting people to visit our website, earthquake.ca.gov, so they can get information about earthquake early warning. The toolkits are specific for the particular industry that we're sending it to. During this first phase, we are going to be looking at healthcare, utilities, and transit associations. Those align with USGS strategic plan and our plan, so it fits well together. And then after that, we'll be reaching out to more industries and associations. Next. So I don't think the links are going to work on this because unfortunately I have them connected to my computer, but I can tell you a little bit about the success videos. Basically, the purpose of the success videos is to be able to kind of promote earthquake warning, and specifically for the industries that we are going to start contacting. We can show them the success of earthquake warning, and we have, I have these 2 listed here, but we have 5 right now. We are developing more as the year goes on, and we will be able to alert the industries of things in their areas that we can do. Next. So next steps and moving forward, we will continue to build those outreach packages, and we will send them outside the 3 association targets. We will engage legislative leaders and elected officials to try to get the message into their areas. And as was talked about before, we had the earthquake simulator at the Humboldt County Fair. And we are also having the simulator for the October Great California Shakeout. We will be starting about 2 weeks or a week and a half before the shakeout, and we will move from Southern to Northern California. I can tell you tentatively, we have picked Imperial County, Palm Desert, Ontario, and San Luis Obispo for some of the stops in Southern California, and we'll make our way up to Northern California. And as soon as we get that finalized, we will send that out. We plan to do some museum exhibits, not only in museums and libraries, but we may take that into state parks and transportation. So we are planning that out, and we plan on doing that in, the rest of the year and into next. And I think that is all that I've had. If you have any questions, please let me know.
Thank you, Jeffrey. And are there, I know there have been a number of comments recently in the chat here, some links. And Jeffrey, if you'd like to put any links into the chat that you couldn't share there, make sure to include the HTTP part, as that will have it be linkable. There's a comment about Shake Alert in churches and temples, wondering how to do that. And would either of you like to comment on that?
We are working with the United Way to do outreach, and I know they are engaging some churches and temples. So that's been primarily how we are getting the word out.
Great.
So I can tell you that.
Yeah, and it has been an area that we have been working with for the past few years to be able to spread that information, not just to protect the churches and the temples and the buildings, but also to the people that are visiting those, and to have that. So that is an effort, and it is included in our new strategic plan.
And I can tell you,
but if any of you have any contacts that we should be talking to, please let us know so that we can reach out to those people and have that information in that contact.
Margaret and Jeffrey, one thing I want to comment on, and I encourage you to include in your talks more, is I get a lot of people asking me, I have 10 earthquake early warning apps, which one is best? But the thing is, they don't have 10 earthquake early warning apps. They have a variety of earthquake apps that exist, that have existed for many years. that will give them a information about where earthquakes have occurred within a few minutes after the earthquake, using the signal that the USGS puts out. You know, so there are many apps out there, is the point,
Well,
that may not
yes.
be the earthquake early warning app. And so making that point that people may think their app isn't working and that MyShake doesn't work, or they just get confused around that. So making sure people understand that there are only a couple actual Shake
There-
Alert apps now.
There are only 3 authorized apps, and that
Or-
is MyShake, Quake Alert USA in California, and also the San Diego SD Emergency. SD Emergency and Quake Alert USA are only California, and MyShake is California and Oregon. And so those are the only authorized apps. Any other app that people are using is for notification only. You get the information after the shaking, after the earthquake has occurred.
Yeah, so I that's right. I just think that this is a really key point to continue to make in public presentations about the system, because I keep getting people saying that I'm getting the messages minutes afterwards, so they're just not using the right app. And I also want to encourage all of you, if you don't have one of the 3 apps that Margaret mentioned, and the easiest one perhaps to remember to go look for is MyShake, to do so, and to tell your friends and family to get the apps and help them get them on their phone and understand, because that's where this really comes down to it, is someone's helping you put it on the phone and that's showing you how it works. And so we're all ambassadors to the effort too, and can really make a difference if we're, you know.
Yes, and we don't have that many earthquakes to test it. We are working on doing regular testing, having our licensed operators to be doing regular testing, so people might get a test more often. But we just don't have that many earthquakes a year to actually test it. So yes, we look to you as the ambassadors to share this information, and we also look to do something that HelloES and I have talked about, is doing a train the trainer. And of course, ECA will be our first train for that, would be training the trainer of ECA ambassadors.
That's fantastic. And one last thing for everybody to be thinking about, especially if you are a manager of a workplace or a business or a church or school or any place that has a lot of people, you may not have earthquake early warning as a system yet, but your visitors and your staff and your customers and your students may have it on their phone. So at some point, it's in the future here, all those people with the phones are going to start reacting. What's your plan for when they do? How do you guide them to do the right thing and not just maybe do the wrong thing, even though the apps say drop, cover, hold on? What is your plan for when a large number of people that you're kind of responsible for start reacting, even if you aren't telling them to do so, because the app is now telling them drop, cover, hold on, or there's an earthquake coming. I think it's something that all organizations need to be planning for, because it's a reality as more and more people, as the state is successful at getting more and more people to get MyShake, that's going to become a real issue. Okay.
Yes, and that comes the education and outreach that we are embarking on.
Fantastic. Any other questions? Thank you here. We're putting some.
Oh, hey, Mark, this is Jeff. I see a lot of questions about is the trailer available? And we actually go through a third party. We used Safety Proof, but I think there's other shake simulator companies out there. So you're free to contact them if you want them at your event.
All right. So yeah, so the state's simulator has a schedule and is moving. That's all set. But there are other simulators that you can pay for to come to your event, generally, unless it's a very large media presence. So from Safety Proof, that has the Quake Cottage, and Ready America that has the big shaker, and they have them in SoCal and in the Bay Area. And you can email info@earthquakecountry.org if you have any questions about simulators. We can send you the links to where to find them. Thank you, Margaret, for putting the specific apps for earthquake early warning in the chat. Make sure you get those apps. The other apps are fine. They're just not going to give you that heads up message. They're going to tell you where it was afterwards.
And it's important to remember this is for a magnitude 4.5 earthquake, intensity 3 of shaking where you are.
That's right. You're not going to get notified if for an earthquake far from you, because that would be annoying. It would be like a false alert for you. So thank you, Margaret and Jeffrey, and for all our presenters today. Given the time, we're not going to go into breakout discussions, but I do want to post some questions, and feel free to put into the chat, or if you know how to raise your hand, you can raise your hand. We'll call on you. So let's just start with some general question. What's something that you learned today? And another question that you could respond to, again, either type in the chat or raise your hand through the reactions panel in Zoom. Then we'll call on you. What's something else? What's something new to do for ShakeOut this year? What might you be doing that you haven't done before? And another question you could respond to is, not who, but what types of people will you invite to join ECA? So you don't have to mention someone's name, but you can kind of describe them or types of groups. So thanks. So we're seeing new and doing new, learning about the CEA Earthquake Brace and Bulls programs, downloading the earthquake apps, sharing this all with coworkers, reviewing the shutoff procedures, I guess, from gas valves, inviting neighbors to participate in the Great Shakeout. That's really fantastic. This isn't something that you do and then you hope it, and then you see other people do. It really is meant to be everyone everywhere practicing earthquake safety. And you are with the social science research that we've based ShakeOut on, people seeing you doing the ShakeOut drill, people seeing you securing your space and getting prepared, and of course talking with you, are really their neighbor, their family member, their friend, etc. That is really where it is effective outreach, more so than any of us in an organizational group can do. Hearing it from the people they know is really ideal. Dina is saying she's going to do a number of events and drills and exercise all the way through November. And Valerie's saying they encourage staff to submit photos of their drop, cover, and hold on, and they get entered into a drawing for a chance to win an emergency backpack for their car. Fantastic. And then how active is ECA on social media? We're posting nearly daily a lot about our the 7 steps and our activities and resources, and now really ShakeOut. So at ECA on Twitter, and at and then Earthquake Country Alliance on Facebook, and you can go to our homepage to find those links. We are creating a TikTok channel first for ShakeOut, and then we'll build that in for ECA as well. So thanks for those points here. And then also any other resources you learned about that you're going to use soon. Of course, if you've just learned about earthquake early warning and you've downloaded it, that's great. Any other resources? Remind you about all of our multi-language materials. And so if you do any outreach with communities that speak different languages, definitely look for those at earthquakecountry.org/languages. Any other answers to these questions? Anybody want to share something live by voice?
I will tell Diane, who's looking for what to do with toilets. when the sewer pipes are broken. So what you want to do is you can put your garbage bag, so your 13-gallon garbage bag, you can put it in your toilet, put cat litter in the bottom of that bag, and now you can utilize that. You can use your toilet apparatus. You just can't flush it. And so you can actually use that. And then of course, when that is full, you can go bury it in the backyard.
Thank you, Margaret. Sharon, were there any other questions further back we didn't address?
Not that I've seen, but if they are not answered yet, please
Yes.
address them in the chat.
Great.
Mark, this is Dina.
Hi, Dina.
Hi. I just wanted to say thank you. I think this was wonderful having the statewide regional committee meeting during the summer. I think it was wonderful, and maybe we can make it a regular thing because I think it was very interesting. You know, some of us get to share with different parts of the state, but I think it was wonderful sharing all the information and seeing what everybody's doing and getting new ideas from everybody. So thank you for all being here and sharing. And anybody wants to join us here in the Bay Area group, just get a hold of Sharon or contact me, and we'd be more than happy to have you on board. Thanks, guys.
I'll respond to the question about the materials. Unfortunately, we do not have a large budget for printing. There's been a lot of pushback on printing of materials with the kind of federal resources as much as before. I think a lot of that has been because of COVID and not having the events for them, but they are all available there as PDFs to link to or to print and to download and then print. We sometimes have materials that we are able to get printed that we bring to events, but not as much as they used to be, for sure. Okay. Any other comments on one of the 4 questions here? There's an opportunity to share with others what you're doing and also others to learn from you. And we do appreciate the thank yous. We might have it's a possibility we may have someone else may have recorded the entire meeting. So hopefully we'll have that or at least part of it on the website by early next week, so you can review, and we'll definitely have all the slides together as a PDF you can download to follow up. And we also put all the links mentioned into a document, so you can find that there on that website where you signed up at earthquakecountry.org/ECA SMR22, summer 22 is what that's supposed to be. So you can save that and go look for that. If you're a member of ECA, you'll get a notification at some point with the link that recording is online as well. Okay. So it looks like the comments are dwindling, and we really appreciate everyone who has stayed with us through the end. Let's go ahead and end the workshop. Thank you again to all our presenters today and to everyone who attended. And it's part of what it is to be a member of ECA, is to make sure we're sharing, we're communicating, and we're learning. And please do take something you've learned today and share it with someone else. With that, have a great rest of your day.